Today on Christian World News, how archaeology is confirming the stories of the Bible. We take you to the Valley of Elah, where King David slew Goliath, and reveal the recent discoveries that back up the story.
Plus, a walk through the site where David built his massive palace near Jerusalem. These ancient artifacts offer proof about the life of the great king and his son, Solomon.
And geography of the Lord's Prayer. We explore the sites where historians believe Jesus taught his disciples how to pray. Modern-day archaeology offers compelling evidence about the characters and the events in the Holy Bible. Hello, everyone. I'm George Thomas.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. Thanks for being with us. Well, did characters like David and Solomon really exist? Many historians today are divided over those questions. But today, we'll meet two archaeologists who are digging up parts of David's life.
And what they've found supports the biblical accounts, down to the smallest details. Gordon Robertson takes us to the site of one of David's greatest victories, the Valley of Elah.
Here in Jerusalem, his name is everywhere. David is the most famous king in Israel's history. But some say he wasn't the great ruler described in the Bible. One Israeli archaeologist said that David and Solomon did not rule over a big territory. It was a small chiefdom, very poor.
This is a great chief. If you want to call King David chief or King Solomon a chief, this is a great chief, and this is a huge tribe.
Others say he never existed at all. Even a professor of biblical studies who insisted, "I am not the only scholar who suspects that the figure of King David is about as historical as King Arthur."
These guys said, well, they didn't have any historical memories, so David and Solomon are pure mythological figures.
One by one, those archaeological memories are being uncovered, and all over Israel, excavators are confirming the biblical story of Israel's greatest king. The Bible records David's story in great detail, from his days as a shepherd boy to his death in the royal palace of Jerusalem. Today, you can walk in the same places where David walked, and they still have the same names as they did 3,000 years ago. There's Bethlehem, the place where he was born, and where he was anointed the king of Israel at just 15 years old. This is En-Gedi, the desert oasis where David hid from King Saul in caves like this one. And Hebron, where he spent 7 years as the king of Judah. For centuries, the Bible was the only written evidence that King David ever existed. There was no archaeological record of his reign until about 150 years ago. In 1868, a stone tablet was discovered in Jordan. It was written by a Moabite king named Mesha, an enemy of Israel. The stone dates to around 840 BC, less than 200 years after David, and it contains the first known reference to the House of David outside the Bible.
In House of David, it means dynasty of David. So we know that there was a guy called David, and he created a dynasty. Okay, so this is now absolutely clear that David is not a mythological figure.
The same phrase, House of David, turned up on another stone more than 100 years later, this time in northern Israel. It was written about 200 years after David's rule, again by one of Israel's enemies, Hazael, the king of Damascus.
He said, I killed 70 kings. I killed a king from Israel and a king from the house of David.
One of David's greatest victories took place here, in the Valley of Elah. This is where the young shepherd boy killed the giant Goliath. And it's one of the few places where you can still catch a glimpse of the Israel that David knew. Nearby are the ruins of the Philistine city of Gath, the hometown of Goliath, and the remains of the brook where David found the stone that killed him. High above the valley is a fortress that's thousands of years old. To the local Bedouin, this place is still known as Khirbet Daoud, or David's ruin. It's the only Iron Age city in Israel that's perfectly preserved and almost frozen in time.
For us as archaeologists, this is one of the richest sites in Israel. This is like a biblical Pompeii.
The Hebrew name is Khirbet Qeiyafa, or Fortress of Elah. Archaeologist Joseph Garfinkel first uncovered the city in 2007. He recovered some burnt olive pits from the site and sent them to Oxford University for carbon dating. The results surprised even Garfinkel himself.
Turned out that the dating of all these beautiful cities and all the find is from about 1020 to about 980 BC. And this is exactly the time of King David.
In David's day, the Valley of Elah served as a neutral zone between the Israelites and the Philistines. In Qeiyafa, which was right on the front lines, excavators discovered a large cache of weapons.
We are sharing some light on the story of David and Goliath, that we are in the same location, in the same time, and the city is heavily fortified. We have all these weapons. So it's telling you that this was indeed an area of conflicts between two political units.
In the Bible, this fortress is mentioned with a different name, Sha'araim, the city of two gates. In 1 Samuel 17, Sha'araim is the place where the Philistines fled after David killed Goliath.
Sha'araim means in Hebrew two gates. In Khirbet Qeiyafa we have two gates. So if you take the biblical tradition, the location, the chronology, the meaning of the name, all these three aspects, you have fits Qeiyafa perfectly.
Just 10 days after Qeiyafa was discovered, critics argued that it was a Philistine city, not a Jewish one. So Garfinkel went to work proving them wrong.
What is the ethnic component of the city? I think that the city is Judean based on 4 arguments.
His first argument is the city's design.
We have a casement city wall and houses abutting the casement city wall. This is now from 4 other sites, so now we have 5 sites. All these 5 cities are in Judah. None of them is in Philistia, so this is really typical Judean urban planning.
His second argument is the animal bones found in the city. All of them strictly kosher.
We have sheep, goat, cattle, but we have no pigs and no dogs. And in Philistine sites, they consume pigs and also dogs. Up to 20% of the animal bones in Philistine sites are pigs, but here nothing.
Point 3, this pottery shard, also known as an ostrakon. It's the earliest example of Hebrew writing ever unearthed. On it are written commandments to worship the Lord and to help widows, orphans, and slaves.
It started with the word al ta'as, which means don't do. And ta'as, to do, is only in Hebrew. It's not Canaanite and not Phoenician.
The absence of idols also points to a Jewish city.
If you go to Canaanite temples of the late bronze, you will find in them a lot of human and animal figures, but not in Khirbet Qeiyafa. So the people here really obeyed the biblical taboo on graven image.
There were no idols, but there were religious shrines. These models predate Solomon's temple by about 40 years. And yet they match the Bible's description of the temple, down to the triple-framed doors. They're the first physical evidence of Jewish worship in the time of King David.
It was not my mission to come here and to prove the historical authenticity of the biblical tradition. When I came here, I have no idea. And these are the results. These are the animal bones. This is the radiocarbon dating. This is the inscription. These are the fortifications. And then you have the biblical tradition. And what to do? They just happen to fit nicely to each other.
About 25 miles east of the Elah Valley, another archaeologist was paying close attention to the finds in Qeiyafa. She spent years unearthing another part of David's life, his royal palace in Jerusalem.
Coming up, we'll take you through the ruins of King David's palace and make a visit to a monumental site linked to King Solomon.
From CBN.
Someone forgot to lock up.
Everyone deserves a second chance.
And you're sure it was Sharon?
Definitely Principal Travis.
Maybe this time we can help her make another choice. What's up?
I can't believe it. Sharon Meyer stole a bike in broad daylight, and Miss Travis just wants to let her slide by. Superbook!
Log on to CBN.com and receive Superbook's newest episode, Jonah, for your gift of $25.
Nineveh. God wanted me to warn them he was about to pass judgment. I say no. If Nineveh is doomed, then let it be doomed.
Get him off this ship!
I thought fish were slimy on the outside.
Give the children you love the Word of God as a foundation in their lives.
People of Nineveh!
It is amazing. Your words have been heard by all of Nineveh.
Superbook, Jonah, available now.
He healed the sick, walked on water, and rebuked the storm. Jesus performed miracles that changed the world, and he shared the secret to that power with you and me.
Gordon Robertson, in his latest DVD, Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer, takes you on a journey from King David's palace to the Sea of Galilee, revealing the mystery and the meaning of the greatest prayer of all time. You'll discover a deeper relationship with God, what it means to overcome evil, how to pray in the power of the kingdom, and the life-changing purpose God has for you. As a special bonus, you'll see a tour of some of Israel's most important sites and learn the amazing discoveries that are being uncovered today.
Learn how to pray the way Jesus prayed and release the power of God's kingdom in your life.
Get Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer, available now.
Well, in 2005, an Israeli archaeologist announced to the world that she had uncovered the ruins of King David's palace in Jerusalem.
Since then, Eilat Mazar has excavated various sites in Jerusalem, and as Gordon Robertson tells us, she's relied on the Bible to understand those discoveries.
3,000 years ago, the entire city of Jerusalem fit on this 12-acre hill. Here you can see part of the wall rebuilt by Nehemiah, the water tunnel dug by King Hezekiah, and the pool of Siloam, where Jesus healed a blind man. This is the city of David.
Welcome to the City of David. Good morning. My name is Miriam.
Today, it's one of Jerusalem's top tourist sites, with close to 500,000 visitors every year.
This is one of the most exciting places on earth. People from all over the world come to this place and for the first time understand that what they're reading in the text matches the archaeology in the ground.
The City of David is more than just a tourist attraction. It's also a live archaeological dig. The Bible says this is where King David built his palace, and one archaeologist says she's found it. For Eilat Mazar, digging is a family affair. In 1948, her grandfather, Benjamin Mazar, was the first archaeologist to get a digging permit in the new state of Israel. And when the Israelis recaptured Jerusalem in 1967, he started excavating the area around the Temple Mount. His granddaughter Eilat was working by his side when she was just 11 years old.
What I've learned from him, the major thing is that the Bible is part of our historical sources to be used and restudied and re-examined again and again. It doesn't object in any way to our scientific archaeological capability of using the best methods for excavations. It goes side by side and it fits beautifully, and it should.
Like her grandfather, Mazar is uncovering the Jerusalem of the Bible, layer by layer. In 2005, she started digging in the City of David with one goal in mind:
King David's palace. Well, I had my assumptions based on the evidence at that time. And then when I started the excavations, it was, of course, an open question.
It wasn't long before she found what she was looking for.
We saw the large walls of some structure, but they were so large that I said, wow, okay, forget about King David's palace. We're talking about a fortress here. We realized that this structure, as monumental and impressive as it is the first structure ever built in that spot. So the question, who built this structure and what was this structure built for?
Mazar soon found her answer.
We've got a marvelous, marvelous historical source, which called the Bible. The core of historical events surely are there.
And they are. Up next, we continue our walk through the city of David with the woman who's digging up the king's palace and learn how she's finding more evidence that supports the Holy Scriptures.
CBNnews.com. News you want, when you want, 24/7. Stay current with up-to-the-minute stories.
Efrem Graham, CBN News, New York.
I don't have to wait for my news anymore. CBNnews.com at your fingertips all day long.
I only watch the stories I want to see.
I find the story, I click on it, and boom, I'm there.
Embassy in Washington, Eric Stakelbeck, CBN News.
The source for your news, CBNnews.com.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
He healed the sick, walked on water, and rebuked the storm. Jesus performed miracles that changed the world, and he shared the secret to that power with us.
Learn how to release the power of God's kingdom here on earth.
Get Gordon Robertson's latest DVD teaching, Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer. Available now.
When Eilat Mazar realized she discovered an ancient structure near Jerusalem, she turned to the Bible to help explain what she found.
And she learned that this new discovery supports the biblical accounts of King David and his son Solomon. Once again, here's Gordon Robertson.
2 Samuel 5:11 says the Phoenician king Hiram sent messengers to David and cedar trees and carpenters and masons, and they built David a house.
So it's a palace fortress, well built, for good reasons. This is most probably the palace that King Hiram built for King David. We know its date, which is around 1000, which is the time of King David. The Phoenician style of construction is quite emphasized. The Phoenicians are great builders, as we learn from our excavations in Phoenician sites.
Inside, the team found more evidence of royalty, from ancient seals used by court officials to a variety of carved ivory utensils, too expensive for a regular home, but perfect for a palace.
The major part of this structure is still hidden, needs to be excavated. What we have in hand is less than a quarter, I would say really much less.
Across the street from the city of David, Mazar is directing another dig as well. Just outside the Temple Mount, she found more royal ruins, this time from David's son Solomon. In 2010, excavators revealed a giant wall more than 220 feet long and almost 20 feet high. Mazar says this is the city wall described in 1 Kings 3, which says that Solomon built the wall all around Jerusalem. It connected David's old city with Solomon's new temple.
We can really say that the biblical description of King Solomon building the wall of Jerusalem around suits so well what we see. This is the only place that a fortification line is needed. It's surrounding that area. It connects to the Temple Mount. It's everything that fits the biblical story.
Critics were quick to dispute Mazar's conclusion, but she had carbon dating on her side. Pottery shards found at the ground floor dated to the 10th century BC, when Solomon was king.
Sometime in the late 10th century, early 9th century, the king of Jerusalem built a most highly skilled fortification that indicated it's a strong regime, centralized, with great abilities. But then we have this biblical story that tells about King Solomon doing the same thing. So he did, and then like 50 years later, some other king did the same thing. So I think we can drop all these, fighting against the Bible. The reality was that the sophisticated fortification was built by King Solomon. And this is only part of it, and it's very impressive.
Inside the wall were more clues pointing to King Solomon. 1 Kings 4:7 says that he had 12 governors who provided food for the king and his household. And inside the gate, Mazar's team found evidence of their work. Jar handles with seals inscribed, "To the King," and large clay jars for storing grain. Mazar believes they came from the royal bakery.
On one of the vessels, there is an inscription, incision in ancient Hebrew, saying that Lesar Ha'o, meaning to the minister that was in charge of the Ofim in Hebrew, which bakery.
Mazar's hunt for the house of David isn't over yet. Next on her agenda is the palace of King Solomon, which she believes is just north of this wall.
Whatever I'll be able to contribute and add to the research of ancient Jerusalem, this is my huge privilege. There is only one Jerusalem in the world, but it's not like I'll start or end anything. We are only at the beginning of it, and it's going to be generations to come.
Generations to come. Talk about a nation that is just a treasure trove of archaeological discoveries.
And it's so cool because they go to the Bible, the archaeologists go to the Bible to find out what they're discovering.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Love it. Cool story. Well, if you want to read more about these discoveries, you can like our history and archaeology page on Facebook, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Pat Robertson. This is an important time in the history of America. It's an important time in the history of CBN. And what you do is so very important now. But we've got to get the gospel out here in America. We've got to help the poor and the needy, feed those who are hungry, clothe those who are naked, bring medical attention to those who are suffering, and more than anything, bring hope to those who are without hope throughout the world. So your 700 Club membership makes a huge difference. And I ask you to go to your phone and call. If you haven't already called in, we appreciate what you've done so much. So don't slack. We don't want our hands to be empty. We want to say, Lord, here are those who have come to you because of my labors. Telephones are available, toll-free line, and we just thank God for each one of you. So don't hesitate to call and do it now.
Jesus performed miracles that changed the world, and he shared the secret to that power with you and me.
Get Gordon Robertson's latest DVD, Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer, and discover a deeper relationship with God, how to overcome evil, and realize the life-changing purpose God has for you.
Learn how to release the power of God's kingdom in your life.
Our Father, Keys to the Lord's Prayer, available now.
I just started surfing 5 years ago. We actually said the Lord's Prayer when we got in the water the other day, and that's something I do. I watched Our Father recently, and I loved it. Gordon's teaching of the Lord's Prayer stood out. He's actually showing everybody, or he's teaching the steps to communicate with God. God wants us to be happy. He wants us to enjoy life. He's our Father, and He loves us.
When the disciples asked Jesus how to pray, He taught them what is known as the Lord's Prayer. Well, versions of it are found in 2 of the Gospels.
Well, some historians say Jesus probably taught that prayer many times and in many places. Historian Stephen Fawn tells us more.
The Lord's Prayer was probably given many times by Jesus. The Pater Noster Church in Jerusalem is a place that commemorates the Lord's Prayer. It starts off with the name, in fact, Our Father, Pater Noster. Why is it here in Jerusalem? The Crusaders built the church on top of the Byzantine church. So it was built by Constantine's mother in the 4th century. It was called the Ascension Church, where they believed that Jesus ascended into heaven. There was, however, a grotto which had to do with Jesus' teaching going way back to the 4th century. So the idea that he might be teaching also on the Our Father here made it convenient for the Crusaders, and then they called it the Our Father Church. The Lord's Prayer in the Gospel is found in 2 places. The favorite one is the Gospel of Matthew because it's longer and seems to be more complete. That is said to be on top of a mountain in the Galilee, so Jerusalem is not the Galilee. Up in the Galilee, you have a beautiful site on the northwest shore, and this little valley overlooks the Sea of Galilee. When there's not any other distractions or noise around, everyone in that whole valley could actually hear somebody speaking. So from that standpoint, it's a favorite today. Now, to say that Jesus went up to a mountain, this is a kind of a hill, but it's hardly a mountain that he went up to if he was really giving the Sermon on the Mount. This is a, I would say, romantic picture. It's still a beautiful picture and not a totally unlikely model, but a model nonetheless. What we should focus on instead is the fact that Jesus didn't teach on this prayer in just in one place. He must have taught on it in a number of places, whether it's there or in the northern Galilee, the western Galilee, Judea, Samaria. He would have said something very close to that same prayer. Jesus was telling his disciples in Matthew's Gospel, this is the checklist of things you want to have in your prayers. You need to recognize God as Father. That's primary. Even over here, Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he said, Abba, Father. In a way, that's all you need to say in the Lord's Prayer, is cry out to God as Father, and he provides everything.
Isn't it fascinating to learn so much about the prayer that we pray all the time?
Sure is. Well, folks, that's been a special edition of Christian World News this week. I hope you've joined us.
Until next week, from all of us here, goodbye and God bless you.